TIFU for knots for a month. Obligatory. This didn't actually happen today, etc. So when I was 14 I got into a huge fight with my mother and she sent me to live with my aunt and uncle. It was an incredibly stressful event, and combined with my innate shyness about pooping anywhere but at home. At first I didn't notice that I wasn't pooping. After about 2 weeks I began to feel awful and tried, without success, to ps. It had built up so much that I think it was impacted. To top it off, my aunt and uncle were weird about bathroom stuff, partly due to having one bathroom in a household of 5 people, and twice, while trying to force it, they knocked on the door and asked what was taking so long, which made the whole thing worse. I didn't tell anyone, partly out of embarrassment and partly out of fear of getting in trouble. They were strict, and I did get in trouble for random things. Another very uncomfortable 2 weeks passed, until one day, a month to the day that I had first arrived and the last time I had pooped, I was sent out to rake some leaves and I was just in total agony. I went back inside and told my aunt what was going on. She was thankfully very understanding, although incredulous that I had waited so long to tell her, and told me she'd had poop issues her whole life. She went out and got me laxatives, suppositories and a fleet enema, and showed me how to use it. At this point I was in so much pain and just sweating bullets and dying for relief. The remedies barely helped matters, but in an hour or so I hopped on the toilet and tried to make things happen. I put both hands on the walls and pushed with all my force, knees up to my chin, straining with all my might. I've since given birth and I pushed harder during this than I did pushing out my son. It hurt so bad, and I felt I was straining every muscle in my body to avoid this beast. After 10 or so horrifying minutes I still wasn't having any luck, and I began wondering if I should ask to go to the hospital, but the idea of a doctor digging pus out of my pus was just too much to bear, so I pressed on. After 15 to 20 agonizing minutes, grunting and straining and thrashing and pleading with my ass to cooperate, finally, I heard my first heavy plop. Oh thank God. I cried from the pain and shock and relief. The first foot or so of poop wasn't much easier. It was so hard and dry. I had to twist and strain for a while, but after that it got a bit easier. About 30 minutes in I stood up and looked into the bowl. Have you ever had a pus so large, so complete that it entirely filled the rim of the toilet, halfway up the bowl rising above the water in thick brown and black coils, iced with a significant amount of blood? I have never, and I mean never, seen a pile of human pus like that, and hope never to again. I would say about 3-4 kilograms of pus, about the size of a large round birthday cake. I flushed once, twice, plunged, and got back on the toilet for round 2. It just kept coming. This part was significantly easier, despite the fact that my ass had torn a little in the process of round 1. Round 2 was about 3/4 of the size of round 1. Finally, the flood stopped, and I gingerly wiped, flushed, cleaned the toilet, and emerged from the bathroom a changed person. I ached inside for a few days after, but oh my god, the relief was incredible. I'll never forget that day as long as I live. TL. Doctor. Didn't pus for a month. Had the most painful pus apocalypse ever and lived to tell the tale. I had my wisdom teeth extracted a week and a half apart for each side. That resulted in me being on painkillers for a good 2.5 weeks. I didn't take pus the entire time, and this post just made me relive the experience. You had it worse. I didn't go a whole month. I can't pus imagine. I remember lying with my head on the floor, ass up in the bathroom, gurgling enema oil into my pus. I was staring at the stick figure on the box. He was ass up on the bathroom floor as well. It was goddamn pitiful. I have problems pooping when I change environment. I remember after I started my army service, I hadn't pooped for 15 days. Then one day, doing my turn in the sentry box all alone, it came. And it came like a hurricane. I couldn't stop it, even if I wanted to. I throw the gun in the planes, get my pants off as fast as I could, and then hit it hard. The final result was something that looked like a brown folded snake. I got so much relief after that, but it wasn't over yet. Something was missing, and that was toilet paper. So I pull off my blouse, wiped my ass with it, and then threw it in a barrel near the sentry box. After that I put it on fire, as the sentry box was far away from buildings in some distant corner of the camp, and I didn't want someone to find that pus after me. I think 17 years after the event, that maybe that brown snacky thing is still there as a monument of my service in that camp. Sorry for my bad English. Straining like that could have ruptured you. Never force poop. I quit smoking about 8 years ago now, after smoking for 22 years. I guess you could say cold turkey, because one day I was smoking, and the next day I lost interest, and never had another one. I always enjoyed an outdoor smoke later in the evening, after my wife went to bed, and it typically caused the overwhelming urge to poop. I was regular like a German railroad. Smoke poop. After about a week smokeless, I noticed I was quite backed up, and I started taking a very gentle OTC laxative, but got nothing. Moved up a notch in efficacy but got nothing. Couple more days go by, and I'm taking serious laxatives, doubling and tripling the dosage, but I'm plugged up tight. Did some internet research, and concluded I need to go to the ER. Took about 4 hours to get in. Told my story, told them the list of the products I tried, was given some official weapons grade laxatives. They said go home, charge your tablet, phone in sick, change into something easy to open, with a drawstring perhaps, no button fly jeans. When you are ready, take the dose. Only a single dose, and go sit on the toilet. It didn't soften stool like most laxatives. It stimulated rectal peristalsis. Took 10 minutes after swallowing the meds dissolved in a glass of water for it to kick in. Ipsouts from 1974. Ipsouts from my neighbor. Ipsouts from Jimmy Hoffa. Ipsouts from JFK. Repeated the whole process again about 3 weeks later. Ultimately took about 6 months to learn to poop again naturally, but now I'm 1 at 2. Edit. Wow. This really blew up. Reminds me of that day. I will address numerous common themes at once. The name of the substance was the aptly named Manovac, which is a distilled senna product. I hadn't been enjoying smoking for some time, and eventually something just changed in my brain. Many people have asked me over the years how I did it, and I wish I could say, if I could market it, I would be rich. One day I was a smoker, the next day not, and never had a single craving. I used to panic if I was out of cigs, so I kept the pack I was working on. There were 3 smokes in a box of Winston 100s, in the glove box of my truck for about 5 years. Knew I had them, so no panic. Just chose not to smoke them. This will be 8 years in September. Pretty sure I don't have cancer. You are all correct. I do not know anything about German railroads. It has always been a metaphor I used for reliability. I won't anymore. Maybe Swiss timepiece. I'll learn to poop without stimulants. I also do not use caffeine. Over time by eating correctly and drinking lots of water. Also pooping at the same time every day is a good thing. Trains the conveyor belt when to run. Thank you for all of the awards. Especially the gold. Kind stranger. I never knew what RIP inbox meant until this morning. Fun fact. If you go without pooping long enough, it can build up to the point where it comes out your mouth. Ipes you not, folks. Fecal vomiting is a thing. I had a 3rd degree burn in high school with massive meds 40 go for 2 weeks. Week 3, I finally got the urge, and it was the size of an adult arm. I was so happy that I, in my morphine sulfate haze, told my parents and boyfriend at the time, and asked them to look, because I found it so impressive. They did not, thank God. Welcome to my first year in uni. Now I'd learned that I had enough money to either eat or drink. I chose to drink. I could buy 3 packets of super noodles for 1. Breakfast, lunch and dinner sorted. I lived with alcohol and noodles for 6 months. I'd eat anything else anyone else didn't eat, and whatever I could get at. About 6 months in, bathroom time had changed a bit. Nothing massively, but longer and a lot more straining. I lived in dorms with 8 guys. We had 2 toilets. One into the flat and another pretty much at the front door. Nobody uses the front door one for obvious reasons. I felt so went to the toilet. Pushed. Oh, it was happening. Just very slowly. 45 minutes and it was part way out. I was sweating buckets and freaking out. I couldn't get it out. I couldn't finish. I'd been in the toilet almost an hour. It was obvious I was struggling. I didn't know these 7 guys. I thought, psst, do I call the hospital? I can't close my ass. It's starting to come out, but it's painful and I can't push anymore. Muscles aren't responding, and I now know why you don't live on super noodles. See, idea and noodles don't produce good body functions. One and only time I've spent a few hours grunting on a toilet. Tears down my face. Stripped every piece of clothing off. Windows open. Wondering what happens if you just live with ups halfway out you. Is this life now? Do I have to do this every time? Do I dig it out? Should I try to rip my ass open? Lube it up? What us life? Never ever again. When I read the story, I assumed Op was a teenage boy. Then she mentioned Haven given birth and I switched to an adult woman. After a while I got confused. Why would an adult woman live with her bathroom interrupting aunt? And read the age again. Then I was freaked out. Good lord, did Op get pregnant at 12 or what? Until I realized that she might have gotten pregnant after the apocalypse. Wild ride. My girlfriend's family's first impression of me was being hungover and loud leaps my guts out for a solid 20 minutes while they ate breakfast in the room opposite. Luckily they're lovely people and they probably don't even remember it, but I still find it amusing. When my daughter was 5 or 6, she had a bunch of Captain Crunch berries and pooped green. She got scared, so she held it for days. Every time a little came out and it was still green, she stopped again and held for a few more days. We don't get crunch berries anymore. People who don't give ups. This is your wake up call. Have you ever had ups so large, so complete that it entirely filled the rim of the toilet, halfway up the bowl rising above the water in thick brown and black coils, iced with a significant amount of blood? Oops. Yes. Blood. No. And I didn't even hold it for a month. Just a few days maybe. But by God, I'll never forget what I saw that day. I felt like if I had gone on for a few more minutes, the pile would have touched my butts. A chill went through my body at the thought of it. I unfortunately caught dengue fever in Mexico, which caused me to lie in bed for the best part of 2 weeks, barely eating and drinking a lot of water. I didn't pee for the whole time. Despite the occasional urge, it just wouldn't come out when I got to the toilet. I'm a pretty regular guy, so this was quite distressing for me, and the loss of appetite also made me quite down in the dumps. Anyway, I was starting to get better and regain some strength, so started eating a bit more. Anyone who has been to Mexico knows that the food there can be very heavy on the carbs, meat and cheese with not a huge amount of vegetables on offer. I decided to go down to the supermarket to see what was on offer there. Ended up buying a box of all brand high fiber cereal and religiously eating this for every meal for a few days. Obviously the urge finally comes when I'm in the bus station about to get on a bus for 10. Oh boy, was I happy to pee regardless of the location. Luckily the bus was delayed, giving me time to drop several foot-long monsters into the bus station toilet over the course of an hour or two. The sheer relief was overwhelming. Never enjoyed taking ups more than that day. I do a massive pee every single morning without fail. Coffee, my friend. I get shouted at for taking pees in my own house. How the hell did you not take ups for a month? I can't go a day without taking a dump. My pooping has recently changed, and I was not able to produce a bowel movement for 2 weeks. I was bloated, nauseous, in pain, and irritable. I couldn't even lay down or straighten my posture without pain. I tried caffeine, fiber, spicy food, massages, stretches, and even trying to dig the poop out with my finger. I finally got a rectal suppository. I was super excited. I finally got the urge to poop. I ran to the bathroom excited. Gas. That's it. A few days later I was tripping with friends. As I was enjoying my peak, my intestines started gurgling. It sounded like trapped demons were trying to scream their way out. I ran into the bathroom. I sat down in the toilet, and I was in so much pain that I got sweaty and dizzy. It was storming at the time, so the branches outside the window were rapidly moving. Angry rain was hitting the window. Windows were shaking, and I thought I was going to die from the pain and growling demons. Finally everything rushed out of me angrily. There was so much, and it smelled so bad, but the relief was incomparable. My abdomen halved in size. I was lighter. I looked out the window and saw it was now sunny and the branches were calm. I was a reborn. So when I was 14 I got into a huge fight with my mother, and she sent me to live with my aunt and uncle. I've given birth before, and I pushed harder during this than I did pushing out my son. I got utterly confused here for a second, until I realized. I can definitely empathize. I have gone 2 months without going, at which time I get quite ill. I would be unable to eat or drink, so my potassium levels were dropped dangerously, and long story short, I ended up hospitalized 3 times. I had a condition called colonic inertia, which is like hellacious constipation. They'd clean me out every 6 weeks with a bowel prep called suprep. In February of 2019 I had surgery to remove the part of my intestines that didn't work, and have avoided the hospital since then. Thank God. TL. Doctor. Been there, but my outcome was yikes.